And for the first time in more than 70 years, there will not be a Nobel Prize winner in literature this year. Now, as we reported yesterday, allegations of sexual abuse and financial misdoing have undone the Swedish Academy. At the center of the scandal is a 71-year-old photographer, Jean-Claude Arnault, who has been associated with the Academy for decades. While he is accused of sexual misconduct, his wife, Katrina Frostensson, who is a poet, is also caught up in the story. Together, they run an independent forum that receives some funding from the Academy, a setup that draws charges of conflict of interest. With resignations and investigations, there are not enough judges to decide on a winner. Now the Academy says they'll award the prizes for 2018 and 19 together. So any aging authors with hopes of achieving the honor this year will have to hold on for yet one more year. Now, for more on this shocker in the literary world, Michele Filgate is a writer and critic and author of the forthcoming anthology, What My Mother and I Don't Talk About, from Simon Schuster. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
I think I butchered her last name. You know how to say it correctly?
I don't, actually. So
what do you make of the Nobel Prize announcement that there will be no one announced this year?
I think it's indicative of the moment that we're in right now, especially with Me Too. Ever since Me Too broke in October of last year, we've seen so many people coming forward. And the story broke in November about the Academy and this sexual harassment and assault scandal with the husband of the Nobel Academy member being accused of assault by 18 women.
18 women.
18 women, yeah. So, you know, this isn't just, I mean, any accusation is awful, but 18 collectively, this is really shaking up the Academy, and I am not surprised.
And so you believe it's the right thing to do?
I do. You know, I was torn at first because I don't think that authors should be punished for this, but at the same time, I think that this is really significant. I think that we are seeing something that is being talked about around the world, and this is going to give more attention to the Me Too movement. You know, the Me Too movement isn't just here in America, as we are seeing from this story. This is a global problem. And so I think that this is the right thing to do, ultimately.
You're a writer and a critic. You're firmly established in the literary world, and in particular the New York world, in Brooklyn. Writers, authors are supposed to be the most articulate, the most willing to share these things. Is there a secret within this community that the allegations of abuse are not getting out? Is it as rampant as in other industries?
Well, it's no longer a secret. You know, the news keeps breaking, especially lately. I think of two authors where the news particularly broke my heart, which today, Junot Diaz, who's one of my favorite writers, has been accused of sexual harassment by several writers. And then Sherman Alexie, who's another phenomenal writer, recently was accused. But we've seen this is pervasive. This goes back further than that. We've also seen Lauren Stein, who was the editor of the Paris Review, which is one of the top literary journals in this country. He resigned due to allegations. And so this is pervasive. I mean, back in October, we saw a list go around of men in media and a lot of men in publishing who have committed a lot of, you know, who have been accused of sexual harassment or assault. And this is not one person. We're talking about a lot of people here.
I keep on harping on the fact that these are supposed to be our super communicators, people who are willing to share deep insights into themselves, into their past, to move things forward. And if what you're saying is so prevalent, why now? I mean, this is such a part of, to be frank, the Me Too movement. Yeah. Why wouldn't these writers come forward sooner? Some of these victims, I mean, these are...
I think victims were scared. I think that it took multiple people breaking the silence for people to feel empowered to share this. I think also there was concern about ramifications in the literary world. These are men who are in powerful positions. Going back to the Academy, this is a man who is in a powerful position. And then today, Junot Diaz, he is one of the best writers of our time. These are people who are influential in the literary world. So I think people have been scared. I think it comes down to that. And what's particularly really heartbreaking with Junot Diaz is that he recently wrote an essay for The New Yorker about his own Me Too story, about his childhood sexual assault. And it's really sad to, I mean, it was a phenomenal essay, but now seeing that in the context of what he has done, continuing the cycle, and allegedly, committing sexual crimes against other women, is very upsetting.
In that piece, he writes about being raped and the trauma that it caused and how he had some sexual dysfunction because of that. Some critics are now suggesting that that article was released as his way because he knew something else was coming down the pike. I saw that too, and I mean, the jaded part of me wonders if that's true. Was this a preemptive thing where he was putting this out there, knowing that people were going to come out and of the woodwork and say things? The main allegation we're seeing right now is a writer who says that he forcibly kissed her when she was in her 20s, and but then there were other women who came forward too and are sharing their own stories. So I'm worried that this is just the beginning of a flood that is going to happen in the literary world and keep on going. So the Nobel Committee has always been criticized as not being diverse enough. They're taking a time out right now. Do you think when it's reassembled, it'll be more diverse, or do you think it'll be more of the same? What needs to change right now?
They need to give the prize to more women and people of color, for sure, and I think that they really need to reassess what they're doing as a committee, and I just hope that happens. I hope that the worldwide attention on this story right now gives them the impetus to really take a hard look at what they're doing and to restore the credibility of this prize.
When the Me Too movement was going through Hollywood, a lot of folks said this was a turning point because these are victims that were in the public eye. It wasn't just these quiet victims. Similarly, writers, some of the most talented, are saying that they were victims too. Do you think that presents a unique opportunity?
I do, because I think that I'm very grateful for the celebrities who have come forward and shared their stories. But the fact is that this happens to normal people too, people who are not in the public eye as much. And I think that writers writing about this, shows that this is a pervasive thing. This is happening everywhere. This is happening to people living all over the world. And it might give people the courage to share their own stories too, or to feel less alone. I mean, one of the reasons my book is so important to me is it's based on an essay that I published in Long Reads last year. It's called What My Mother and I Don't Talk About, and that essay is about my stepfather abusing me and my mother being complicit in the abuse because she's still married to him. And my heartbreak over not being able to have this core relationship with the person who gave birth to me. It's a very strained relationship. So then with that book, I wanted other authors to break the silence about what they can't talk about with their mothers. It's not all abuse stories, but it was important to me to have a book that looks at breaking all kinds of silences.
At this point, do you still have any relationship with your mother?
I do, yeah. It's complicated, as these things often are.
Well, thank you so much for being honest and sharing your story. It empowers a lot of women. Thank you.
Thank you.